do. Today, we're going to tear back the curtain on that story. No, really, just take a second. Was it a coffee? Some new headphones? A book? Why that one? Was it just an impulse buy, or did you spend weeks researching it? The answer, as you're about to see, is always way more interesting than it looks on the surface. Here's the best way to think about it. Every choice you make is like the final scene of a movie. But there's a whole cast of characters, some you know, some you don't, and a plot that's been driven by forces you probably weren't even aware of. It's this wild mix of psychology, who you hang out with, and just circumstances. And we're gonna unpack it all. So to make this all feel real, we're gonna follow a story from our source material. Let's meet the Banerjee family. They're on the hunt for a new TV, and by following their journey, we're going to see all the hidden gears turning behind almost every purchase any of us ever make. Okay, let's dive right in. The first piece of the puzzle is understanding the basic flow of any purchase. You can think of it as the 5 acts in our little shopping story. So the first big idea here is that a purchase isn't just one moment, it's a process. For the Banerjees, it all started with problem recognition. Their daughter mentions her friend's new smart TV, and suddenly theirs feels ancient. That kicks off the information search. They start asking friends, noticing ads, scrolling through websites. Next up is the evaluation, where they're weighing their options. Only then, after all that, do they get to the actual purchase decision. But wait, it's not over. The story always ends with the post-purchase feeling. That little voice asking, did I make the right choice? But who's actually making this decision? Here's the thing. You're almost never making these choices completely alone. Just like a movie has a whole cast, so does every purchase. It's about way more than just the one person who actually pays for it. All right, let's use the Banerjees to map this out. The daughter, she was the initiator. She planted the seed. Then you've got the influencers, friends, coworkers, Mrs. Banerjee's sister, all giving their opinions. Mr. Banerjee ended up being the buyer, the guy who physically made the purchase. But the whole family, they're the users. Now, if you're a marketer, this is huge. You have to ask, who am I really trying to convince here? The initiator, the influencer, or the buyer? They each need a totally different conversation. So, we've looked at the journey and the cast of characters. But honestly, the most powerful forces are the ones happening inside our own heads. Now we're going even deeper, to the mental programming that guides our choices, often on complete autopilot. And look at just how personal this gets. Our source material has this fantastic example. 2 sisters living under the same roof. One is super practical. She buys Dettol soap and reads news magazines. The other is all about style. She buys Lux soap and reads fashion mags. Same upbringing, but completely different shopping carts. It's a perfect illustration of how our own unique personality and attitude act as a filter for every single product we see. You know, our brains are also incredibly efficient. They hate wasting energy on stuff that doesn't matter. So they shift gears. For something big, like a car, your brain goes into full-on, extensive problem-solving mode. You're doing deep research. But trying a new brand of chips? That's just limited problem-solving. A quick glance at the options, and you're done. And your daily toothpaste? That's a habitual response, pure autopilot. You grab it without even thinking. Okay, so we've got all these classic models of how we shop. Now let's talk about the single biggest disruptor to all of it, the internet. The digital world has completely rewired the consumer's brain and added all these new twists to the story. Get this. Our research shows that a whopping 56% of shoppers in India now kick off their entire buying journey with a search engine. Before they talk to anyone, before they go to a store, they go online. And we're not just browsing. Oh no, we've all become amateur investigators. A massive 85% of us are checking at least 2 different online sources, reviews, price comparisons, videos, before we even think about buying. The days of the uninformed consumer? They're long gone. So what do we all want from this new digital shopping aisle? Well, it's not just about the lowest price anymore. The data is crystal clear. We want a smooth experience. 76% of us put convenience at the top. 85% expect it to work perfectly across all our devices. And nearly 90% say, just make the payment simple. Fast delivery, easy returns, these aren't nice-to-haves. They're the absolute baseline. The experience of buying has become the product itself. So why does any of this matter? Because while we're out there shopping, Companies are studying. Every little insight we've talked about is like a key for marketers, a key that can unlock a brand new audience or even build a billion-dollar company. This is the official name for this whole field, consumer behavior. And as you've seen, it's not just about that moment you click buy. It's the entire story, from that first little thought of wanting something all the way to when you throw the package away. And somewhere inside that story, marketers find their biggest ideas. Let me throw a classic marketing puzzle at you, one that's built on this exact type of thinking. Imagine there's a huge part of the market that needs shampoo, but they can't afford a whole bottle. What do? The brilliant insight was to completely change the way they saw the problem. The customer's need wasn't for a bottle of shampoo. It was for a single, affordable hair wash. They weren't selling the object. They had to sell the moment. And here's how that one little shift in thinking changed an entire industry. They identified this huge unmet need. They didn't invent some fancy new formula. No, they just changed the packaging and the price. And just like that, the shampoo sachet was born, creating a massive new market simply by aligning the product with the consumer's actual life. And this works for tiny problems too. Our source notes that when Pan Parag saw customers were spilling their product, they didn't change the formula. They had just added a little zip to the pouch. Boom, problem solved. It was a small tweak that showed they were listening. That is consumer behavior in action. So in the end, everything from that big screen TV to a simple pack of gum has a backstory. It's a reflection of your needs, your personality, the people in your life, and the culture you live in. In a very real sense, what you buy is a part of your story. So let's end right where we started. That last thing you bought? Think about it again. Was it just a habit? Were you the one who wanted it or just the one who paid for it? How many websites did you check? What hidden story is that one little purchase telling about you? The more you look,